All right, so the roof. Now we're in the truth zone here, right? So this isn't a molded on roof that you just slap on and call it good. No, 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 not with this kit. And by the truth zone, I mean, I truly think this is fun. This is a really neat kit, and I've never done anything quite like this. So roof pieces, we've got this little platform here is actually going to sit on this area here, which is actually the beginning of the platform, which is what this piece is, and would continue on that away. And that's where the actual ice blocks are. That'd be where the ice is that they put into the roofs of the reefers. And while I'm weathering and getting that one stained, I figured I'd go ahead and get this one done at the same time so that they match well. And I'll get into that when we get there. This heavier block is gonna go between the two gables there. And there's a lot of other parts here. There is wood. I don't know if you can see that if I pull in on it a little bit. Those are U-shaped wooden channels. Those are gutters. This is for the downspout. There is a cooler on the roof, which is what these pieces are for. So this is some clapboard stuff, and you actually have to cut the end out sort of like a chevron shape, and that sits on top of the main roof and is the cooler. There is some 1/16 by 1/32 wood here. Pieces of that become bracing on the side of this. So all this needs to be painted and treated. And I gotta go look in the instructions one more time before I do anything. Because I can't remember if the same size wood is for the rafters coming off the end of the roof as it comes down. There's rafters on the end, like full ones, and then little cut ones that go along here. I gotta make sure I use the right wood for that. And then the shingles themselves, that's over here. This is the roof sections. There's for the whatchamacallit, the chiller on the roof, and then the main roof itself, and then this material here for shingles that I've never used before. But thankfully, the kit comes with some nice instructions on how to do these. So that's a lot of stuff to finish the main structure. This part, before I even get to the trestle-y looking thing that's the platform for the main, the main loading deck. So tons of stuff to do in this kit. Oh, and there's a platform that goes down here out this side door. So tons and tons of stuff to do here, but I'm having fun. This is a great kit and really cool. I know I've said it about 100 times now that it was my grandfather's, but that really does mean a lot to me, and I'm just having a blast building it. All right, so I've moved on to the platforms. Started with the small one, and using an X-Acto knife, I've come in and cut board lengths here. And I made the boards 1 inch long. So if you do some quick math, an 8-foot board is 96 inches. At 1/87th scale, 96 inches is pretty close to 1 inch. So to keep things simple, I'm just using the grid on my mat here at 1 real inch. It's approximately 8 feet in HO scale. So I'm making HO scale boards, and I'm going every other. So you can see every other board is, the ends aren't all in a line, they're every other. And I'm using an X-Acto knife to do that. Then I came in with a wire brush and roughed the wood up and added some grain to it. And then I came in with the pounce wheel along the edges of those seams and made some nail holes. And I'm doing the same thing on the larger section here. This one's in progress. You can see the pattern of the board cuts and the pounce wheel as well, the cuts on the right there. So I will continue that all the way down this longer board and then get these two stained up. I wanted to do them together so that they kind of match, and I'll get that one put over there on that part of the building. So, making progress. All right, well, after some staining, and I just used murky brown and shadow gray again, you can see how it picked up the detail a little bit that I notched in those gaps between the boards and some nail holes there with a pounce wheel. And if I come down here, this is just under layout lighting. This is the larger deck. Did the same thing there. You can kind of see what that's going to look like and how that looks. So I'm happy with how the detail turned out. It was worth doing. I did go in and hit some individual boards and try to give it some variation, and I think it worked out pretty well. So that's kind of where it's going to sit and kind of the lighting it's going to be under. So I will put these aside. I'll glue that piece on there. But I realized I made a mistake. The end of the wall facing me should not have gotten rock. And I know that because if I come down here onto my workbench and I show the plans, do not glue rocks here. It says it right there. I did glue rock, so I need to work on breaking those off, I guess. I used matte medium, so I'll figure that out. So a little boo-boo, not anything I can't recover from. So I'll get that glued on, get those rocks broken off, and then I'm gonna start work on the pitched roof up here. More to come. All right, another in progress here. I've got the smaller platform attached to the building, and I did remove the rocks from that end. It's gonna need some work to clean that up a little bit, but I think it'll get largely covered by the bigger platform. I've also started working on the roof, and this is some really heavy-duty cardstock that the kit comes with. So both the cooler and the roof itself come out of this. It's really thick, not a terrible color already, but you know, just to kind of, like I say, some kits will come with like a much brighter, almost white, which you wouldn't want because you'll see some of the overhang here. So I went ahead and used some medium gray and just, you know, covered up the edges. This surface here on the 3 sides that'll be exposed and most of underneath. And this actually does have a pretty big overhang. So not that you'd be up looking underneath it real easily, but just in case you did, you won't catch any raw cardstock under there. Also started painting these tiny, I finished painting this. These tiny little boards. I think they're 1/32 by 1/16 maybe. And I've got them stained, and then I did the same sponge treatment that I did with the other trim. And those are gonna be the rafters. So that largely matches the trim everywhere else on the building. So got the cardstock ready, the rafters ready, and these little U-shaped channels. I airbrushed those with a flat black and then came over top of that with a whole red, kind of a rusty color. Same thing on the wire here. This wire to the left makes the downspout. So getting those things prepped to go onto the roof here, and trying to decide exactly how I want to do the shingles. The instructions say, the way it sort of reads is that you would actually cut these out, and you cut each one 1/4 inch wide, which I'll do. And the 1/4 inch, the first one comes down the middle of it, and then in the spots in between, and then, you know, this little section here would make a shingle. And it kind of talks about painting it after it's on. I agree, maybe I want to weather it and do some of the washes after it's on, but I probably want to go ahead and paint it when it's like this. So I'm trying to decide what colors to paint it. The colors the kit says to paint the roof are awfully similar to what I've already got as the sides of the buildings here. Again, started by my grandfather, used that sort of maroon color. So I gotta think about that, and I'll come up with something and come back and show you what we did. I'll probably airbrush the base colors on here, then cut them out, then glue them on. And the cardstock has nice little guides to show, you know, make sure you keep it straight. And I'll probably do that initial paint with the airbrush and then do the stains once it's on the cardstock, cut out and glued on. So much more to come, and I'll catch back up after I figure out colors of shingles. All right, I got the shingles painted, and that's how they came out. And what I used, I started with Vallejo Hobby Spray. Cans look like that, and I used, kind of fell back on some colors I like using a lot. Started with Panzer Gray, which is kind of a darker gray. If I show the top, so you can kind of see which colors I used there. Started with this darker gray, kind of a grimy black. Panzer Gray as the color. Then I came over the top with this khaki color, that is US khaki. Not a lot of that, just kind of misted that over the top to add a little depth of color. And then, kind of like as a fade, if you will, I used German field gray, and that's that lighter gray. I came over the top of that with those three, and then I came back with whole red from Tamiya through the airbrush, and you can kind of see some vertical lines there. I got the airbrush kind of close, used fairly low pressure, and just created some streaks on there. And the reason I used whole red is because, and it's not like I painted the shingles red. Like they're definitely not whole red, but there's enough in there mixed in, both for variation, and that gives me a color that ties back in. If I try not to make you sick and pivot back over here, that is what color the majority of this structure actually is that whole red maroon color. So it's not that the roof is that color. The shingles aren't going to be that color, but there's a little splash of it here and there to kind of tie the whole thing together. So that's how the shingles came out. You could see in that last, when I panned over to the desk, I've attached the roof card as well, so I am ready to start laying this shingle. More to come. All right, I wanted to show this next part. It's a little bit different than anything I've done before, but I'm largely following the instructions here, other than I painted them before cutting them. But before I get to cutting the shingles, just to make a point, I noticed after scribing all of the detail into these platforms, my blade kind of got dull. So I don't know, a couple of years ago, I picked this up on Amazon for probably 10 or 15 bucks or something. There's 100 number 11 blades in here. So whenever I see that, I just swap it out. So I've got a brand new sharp blade, which is good for cutting paper. So I don't want to tear this. And it's just going to show how we cut this. The instructions say to cut it into 1/4 inch strips. And you actually come down the center. Let me pull in on that a little bit so you can see it. You actually want to come down the center of the line, and then so there'd be a cut here and one here, and then another one there. And this row right here actually makes 2 rows of shingles, each a 1/4 inch wide. So I'm going to do that real quick, and then I'll come back and show you what it looks like as we start to glue them onto the structure. See if I can do this and have y'all see what I'm doing at the same time. So I'm going to use this metal blade here, or metal straight edge. And I'm going to come just to the outside of the lines with my very sharp, nice, fresh blade. Just come right down like that. Now this piece here is going to probably be useful for the roof, the center line down the peak of the roof. All right, so that's one. All right, so all those cuts made, I've got my shingles ready to go. So now I will work on gluing those on. One thing, and I'll bring the kit over here, the structure rather, the roof stock, kind of nice they did this, actually has lines on there to kind of guide you into where the sheets of shingles actually go. So I thought that was a nice little touch, and it's going to come in handy right now. All right, just a quick update here. You can kind of see the progress I'm making with the shingles and the effect you get by cutting off little bits and pieces of the shingles before you lay them on. And so that's what it's looking like so far on the building. Now I came up to where the cooling unit that sits on the roof goes, and you can see the markings for it there on the cardboard. So if I put that to the side, I'll show you what we're doing there. So just like all the other wood on this kit that's going to be just bare wood, I went and used those 2 stains there, the murky brown, and then hit it with shadow gray as well. I kind of dabbed some of it off. It was a little darker than I wanted it to be, so I dabbed a little bit off. And I did, you can kind of see on the edges of the boards there, I did use the pounce wheel for some nail holes up there as well. So these are the 4 walls, and these are the roof sections to that refrigerator unit that's going to go there. So I'm going to get that built and put on, and then I will do the rest of the shingles. So that's what it's looking like so far. I would advise, if you're building a kit like this, these little sections are not very long. There's my finger. The chopper tool is a very nice tool for making little cuts like this and getting them all the same. So I just took my chopper out and laid this piece up against the edge and with it closed, so the blade is here, pushed this up against the blade, brought the guide over, then I took this out, and then I used the trim pieces to cut them all the right length for the height here. So that was a nice, handy way to use a very handy tool to get this cut. Then I just used carpenter glue to get the little pieces put on, and handy dandy tweezers. Put the glue on with the point of a toothpick, just very tiny little dabs of glue, and then press it into place with those fine tip forceps I use for all kinds of stuff. So a little in progress. I'm gonna get that built, get that put on the top, get the shingles laid on that, and then I've got some trim to do, the rafters, the drain pipes, etc. And there's a little structure that goes right here. Want to get that stuff done kind of in this video, and then I'll probably use a third video to do the icing dock itself, which is a much larger trestle-like platform that sits to the right of the main structure. So more to come. All right, welcome back to the messy workbench. Just wanted to kind of point out something I noticed working on this kit. And that is when you put the cooler on the top, the instructions, I think, are leading you to bring the shingles up, and there's a print on here that I showed in one of the last clips that shows exactly where that cooler goes. But I noticed as I was putting it up there, I think it actually was going to look a lot better if I went ahead and shingled the whole thing and then put the cooler on top and then shingled that roof as well. Because there was a little bit of a gap between one of these rows of shingles. I forget which one it was. You could see more of the top of the shingle than I think was realistic. So I went ahead and finished it, which means I had to cut a few more of these sheets out so that I could do, the cooler's going to have a little roof as well. So I was doing that while I was listening to the on the track crew Saturday morning. Anyway, I also started, as those pieces are getting ready, I was doing that. I went ahead and stained the pieces that go, there's a little platform that comes out here, little deck type platform, and then there's a set of stairs that leads up onto this deck, and then of course the much larger one that goes off to the right. So I went ahead and started staining that. If I just pull in on it a little bit, I'll show you what I did there. So again, I'm using murky brown and shadow gray, and I've got different combinations because I wanted some variation in the boards. And the way this actually gets built together, these boards are all separate, and you place them on this piece, which forms the main platform, rather than have it scribed into here, which gives you the opportunity to get some variation without having to come in and individually paint board. So I grabbed each one just with my forceps like this and dipped it in the various stains and stuff. And I'm using those two colors, but various combinations. This area over here, I kind of double dipped. I dipped it in brown and then shadow gray, which is how I did a lot of the rest of this structure. Then I've got a little pocket right here of sort of fresher looking boards that just went in the brown, and then some really old looking stuff if you just use the gray and not the brown at all. So that's kind of over here. So as I'm laying these boards out, I'll be able to get some nice variation there. I also, some of the boards after I dipped them, I dabbed them on the paper towel more to get more of the stain off and leave a lighter color. And in other cases, I let it just sit, fairly heavy and get a darker stain. So the idea there is just to get some good variation on those boards. So that's where I'm at. As I start this process, I'm going to be finishing up the roof there. There's a whole bunch of drainage details and stuff that go up there. There's some gutters and downspouts, etc. That I've shown in a previous clip. So I'm gonna get that part rolling, and I'm already starting on this next step here. And my goal again is to get this main structure done here this week. So a lot more to come as I finish this part of the project up. All right, so since I last showed anything, I've got this platform on the end. I finished the shingles, I finished the cooler, and I added the drain spouts you can see on the sides, the downspouts. And if you look real close at the door there, there's a doorknob. So there's two doors. I actually did two doorknobs. There's the drain pipes, and then the rocks here on this end over here. I know the plan said not to put rocks there, so I took them off. But I think that's going to be visible. And looking at the next steps of the plans, even though it says don't put them there, there are drawings later that show rocks there. And looking at the as-built drawings, or at least to scale, actual size drawings that are in the plans, there is a gap between the bracing of the main platform structure and the end of this building. So that's not going, I don't believe, going to interfere with anything. So I put them back on and reweathered, put new ones on and reweathered those. So this is what it's looking like. And I gotta be, I'm pretty excited with how it turned out. I think it looks pretty good. It's not perfect. I still need to do some weathering on the roof, but some powders and stuff that I'd like to use are not here yet. There's a good end-on view. You can see the doorknob on this end, the metal stairs that I painted up, the two drain spouts, as well as the gutters. You see the gutters there on the end. Kind of my finger's a little big for that view. Let's point at it like this. Well, you know where gutters are, right there on the end. So this is how it turned out. So this pretty much concludes, other than weathering, the main roof, the main building construction. And I still need to come back and do the main platform. So that'll be working on that over the next week or so. So anyway, thank you for watching. Hope you all stay well and safe out there, and we'll get this build done hopefully in the next week or so. Be well, y'all.